The training room was brighter than usual, the white lamps above humming like a choir. On the wall stood a training board filled with switches, outlets, and lamp holders, a small imitation of a real house. Wires ran behind it like hidden veins. Today, Harris promised us something new. The art of troubleshooting. Not just building, but diagnosing. Hunting the invisible faults that hide in silence. He placed a multimeter in my hands. Its weight was heavier than I expected, like a sword passed down in a secret ceremony. Harris. Troubleshooting begins with safety. First rule, always verify your tester. I looked at him, puzzled. Jon, isn't the tester supposed to be accurate? Harris, never assume. Tools lie when their batteries die or their circuits fail. So you confirm. Live dead. He gestured to a nearby outlet. I pressed the test leads into the slots. 120 volts glowed on the display. Then I moved to a dead circuit. 0. Then back to the live outlet again. 120 volts. Steady. Jon, still working. Harris nodded. Harris, that is live dead. Confirm on a live source, check a dead one, then return to live. Only then do you trust your tester. Maria stepped up with a non-contact tester. She waved it near a wire, and the tip glowed red. Maria. Voltage present. Quick, but not precise. It tells you that power exists, but not how much. For exact readings, volts, amps, ohms, you need the multimeter. The non-contact tester is a scout. The multimeter is the general. Kevin reached for another lamp circuit, one that refused to light. He tested at the switch. 120 volts. Then, at the lamp holder. 0, he frowned. Kevin, power at the switch, but nothing at the lamp. Where's the problem? Harris folded his arms. Harris, step by step, Kevin. Do not guess. Electricity leaves clues. Kevin followed the wire to a junction, twisted inside a wire nut. He unscrewed it. Tugged and the connection was loose. He tightened it, screwed the nut back, and suddenly the lamp glowed bright. Kevin laughed nervously. Kevin, that was it? Just a loose wire? Harris. Most faults are simple. Loose connections, nicked wires, tired devices, but finding them requires discipline. No random isolation, no random guessing. The foreman entered then, clipboard in hand, like a judge ready to score. Foreman, and write down your steps. Every test, every reading. Keep a diagnostic log. That way the next electrician knows what you've checked and where to begin. A log is not paperwork. It is proof. He pointed his pen at me. Foreman, apprentice. Why keep a log? Jon, to track the troubleshooting process. To avoid repeating tests. To hand off clear information. Foreman, correct. A sloppy electrician wastes time. A disciplined one leaves a map. Later, Harris simulated another fault. A lamp flickered randomly. Sometimes on, sometimes off. He smiled, daring us. Harris, intermittent fault, the trickiest of all. Who finds it? Maria leaned close, her eyes scanning the socket. She spotted faint scorch marks on the wire. Maria? Loose connection? Overheating? They replaced the conductor. The flicker stopped. Harris arc faults often begin this way. Heat builds. Arcing follows. Fire is the final step. Never ignore burn marks. I stepped forward to practice measuring continuity. The meter beeped steadily across a good wire. I switched to a broken conductor. Silence. Jon. So an open circuit means no path, Harris. Correct. Open circuit equals broken path. Short circuit equals wrong path. Electricity speaks in these words. Learn its language. The foreman quizzed us with rapid-fire precision. Foreman, what is the first step before testing voltage? Maria, verify your tester on a live circuit. Foreman, what does live dead live confirm? Jon, that the tester itself is working. Foreman, what does a non-contact tester show? Kevin, presence of voltage only, not the amount. Foreman, what tool measures exact volts, amps, ohms? Jon, multimeter? Then you are learning to listen. By evening, my notebook filled again. Verified tester, live dead, live non-contact equals quick scout. Altimeter equals precise commander. Step-by-step isolation, not guessing. Keep diagnostic logs. Loose connections are danger. I looked at the training board. A moment ago, it had been just switches and lamps. Now it looked like a puzzle box filled with secrets. Each wire a clue, each reading a piece of evidence. Troubleshooting was not guesswork. Oh, it was detective work. A search for hidden truths, guided by patience and the right tools. The foreman closed his clipboard with a snap. Foreman, tomorrow you will face bigger faults. Short circuits, ground faults, voltage drops. If you panic, you fail. If you guess, you fail. Only systematic testing will keep you alive. The dragon had revealed its scales today. Tomorrow we would see its fire. The training board glowed under fluorescent light, its switches and outlets daring us to find the secrets they hid. Yesterday we learned the detective's method. Verify the tester. Live dead live. Never guess. Always log. Today Harris raised the stakes. He called it the battlefield of faults. He stood by the board, wires exposed like veins waiting for a surgeon. Harris, you know, open circuits. Now you meet their darker brothers, short circuits, ground faults, arc faults. They do not whisper. They strike. He picked up two bare conductors and tapped them together for a split second. A flash, a loud pop, and the breaker snapped off with a violent click. Kevin jumped back, nearly dropping his meter. Harris, that is a short circuit. The wrong path. Current rushing where it does not belong. A river cut loose. Tell me, apprentice, what protects against it, Jon? The breaker. It trips to clear the fault, Harris. Correct.
Right.
But only if the breaker is sized right. Oversized and the wire burns before the breaker acts. Maria leaned in, pointing to another test rig. Maria, what about this? She touched her non-contact tester to a metal box. Tip glowed red. Harris. That is a ground fault. Current leaking from hot to ground, crawling on the box that should be safe. That is why we install GFCI. Ground fault circuit interrupters trip instantly when imbalance occurs. The foreman entered, his face grim. Foreman, answer me, apprentice. How fast is a GFCI trip? Jon, within fractions of a second, when current differs between hot and neutral by more than 5 milliamps. Foreman, correct. 5 milliamps may sound small, but it is enough to kill in water. Kevin muttered nervously. Kevin, so GFCI protects bathrooms, kitchens, outdoor outlets? Harris, yes. Anywhere moisture threatens, code demands it. Ignore it, and you gamble with lives. He flipped another switch on the training board. A lamp flickered, on and off, random as lightning bugs. Harris, intermittent fault, the cruelest to find. Who will solve it? Maria stepped forward, eyes sharp. She spotted faint scorch marks around a wire in it. She pulled it free inside. The copper was darkened. Strands loose. Maria, loose connection. Overheating. Harris, yes. Loose connections cause arcing. Arcing causes heat. Heat becomes fire. That is why AFCI exists. Arc fault circuit interrupters listen for the signature of arcing and trip before the fire begins. He turned to Kevin with a challenge. Harris, Kevin, tell me, what breaker protects against ground faults? Kevin, GFCI. Harris, and against arc faults? Kevin, AFCI. Harris nodded, though his eyes remained stern. Foreman cut in, his clipboard ready. Foreman, apprentice, what is voltage drop? The loss of voltage along a conductor due to resistance. Foreman, and why does it matter? Jon, because too much drop starves equipment. Motors overheat, lights dim, systems fail. Foreman, correct. The code allows no more than 3% on a branch circuit, 5% total on a feeder and branch combined. Design wisely or face failure. The lesson turned into a battlefield of tests. Harris killed breakers, created shorts, simulated ground faults, forced us to track each step with our meters. We wrote logs of every action, every reading. Harris, step by step, systematic. A diagnostic log is your weapon. Without it, you chase ghosts. With it, you hunt truth. Kevin faced a test where a breaker tripped randomly. He guessed, replacing a lamp without testing. Harris's glare was ice. Harris's guessing is not troubleshooting. Guessing is gambling. Test, isolate, confirm, shamed. Kevin restarted. He measured voltage at the switch. Good. At the lamp. Dead. At the junction, loose connection again. Tightened. Fixed. This time he wrote it in his log. Kevin. Fault isolated. Connection corrected. Circuit restored. Harris gave him a nod, small but real. As the day stretched, we faced scenario after scenario. A breaker tripped from a nail piercing a hidden cable short circuit. A wet outlet triggered GFCI ground fault. Scorched splice caused flicker arc fault. Each test hammered truth deeper. Electricity speaks, but only to those who listen with discipline.
Ow.
The foreman raised his voice one last time. Foreman, apprentice. What is the danger of guessing? Jon, unsafe and inaccurate. You miss the truth and risk lives. Foreman, good. And what is the purpose of systematic isolation? Jon, to narrow the fault step by step until only truth remains. The foreman closed his clipboard. Harris gathered us around. Harris opened circuit broken path, short circuit trong path, ground fault leakage path, arc fault burning path. You now know their names. You now know their habits. Tomorrow, you will prove you can not only find them, but fix them under pressure. My chest swelled with determination. Troubleshooting was no longer wires and numbers. It was detective work. It was battle. And tomorrow, the final trial would come. The shop felt like a courtroom that morning. Yesterday we met short circuits, ground faults, and the cruel dance of arc faults. We learned to chase them with discipline, to log every step, to never guess. Today, Harris promised the final trial of troubleshooting. He called it voltage testing mastery. The training board had been rebuilt overnight. Dozens of switches, outlets, and junction boxes sprawled across it like a city of copper. Somewhere inside were faults hidden, deliberate, waiting. Our task was simple in words, brutal in execution. Find them, fix them, prove we understood the craft. Harris set his meter on the table. Harris, today you earn your place. You will test live voltage, confirm dead circuits, check continuity, and isolate faults under time pressure. If you panic, you fail. If you guess, you fail. If you succeed, you walk as electricians. The foreman stepped forward, his clipboard heavy like a gavel. Foreman, and every step you take must be written. A log is not busy work, it is your defense. Inspectors demand clarity. If you cannot explain your path, you cannot be trusted. He pointed to me first. Foreman, apprentice. What is the sequence for verifying your tester, Jon? Live, dead, live. Check on a live source, then a dead one, then return to live. Foreman, correct. Never forget it. Harris divided us into pairs. Maria went with Kevin. I stood alone. He handed me a work order. Circuit 4 is reported dead. 8. Find the cause. Repair it. Verify safety. My hands tightened around the meter. This was no practice. This was judgment. I began at the breaker panel. Breaker 4 looked normal, not tripped. I tested voltage at its terminal. 120 volts. Present. Logged it. Panel output. Good. Next, I moved to the first outlet on the circuit. Dead, I wrote. No voltage at outlet 1. Step by step, I traced the line. At junction box 1, I opened the wire nut. The connection was tight, no scorch marks. Voltage present on the feed, absent on the load. My meter confirmed. Continuity failed. Jon. Open circuit between junction 1 and outlet 1. Harris watched silently, his face unreadable. I stripped back the insulation on the feed wire. There it was, break. Copper nicked until it had snapped under tension. Repaired it, capped it, tested continuity. The meter beeped steady. I restored power. The outlet came alive. I logged every step. The foreman nodded once, making a note. Meanwhile, Maria and Kevin faced their trial. Their circuit tripped immediately when energized. Short circuit. Maria tested methodically. Voltage at the panel present. Junction. Breaker tripped again. She stopped, logged, reset. Kevin grew impatient. Kevin, it's probably the lamp holder. Just replace it. Maria stopped him. Maria, no guessing. Test. She isolated half the circuit, capped off wires, energized. Breaker held. She tested the other half. Breaker tripped again. Narrowed down, she found it. A screw had pierced insulation inside a box. She re-insulated, reconnected, tested. The breaker held steady. The lamp shone bright. Harris, that is discipline. That is why guessing kills. Kevin lowered his head, humbled, but wiser. The foreman's voice cut through the silence. Foreman apprentice explained the difference between an open circuit and a short circuit. John, an open circuit means no path for current. Short circuit means a wrong path, usually low resistance, causing overcurrent. Foreman, correct. And what protects against each? John, open circuits show as dead equipment diagnosed by continuity. Short circuits trip breakers cleared by finding and repairing the fault. The foreman marked something on his clipboard. The tests continued. Harris created a ground fault by dampening an outlet. My non-contact tester glowed red against the metal box. I checked imbalance with the GFCI. It tripped instantly. I logged the result. Maria faced an intermittent arc fault. She traced it with her meter until she found the scorched wire nut. She tightened and retested. The circuit held. Finally, Harris called us all forward. Harris, one last test. Voltage drop. Measure at the panel. We set our meters. At the panel, 120 volts. At the outlet, 115 volts. Harris, that is a 5-volt drop. Too much. Maria, no. Less than 3% drop. Acceptable. Harris, correct. Voltage drop kills equipment slowly. Never ignore it. The foreman barked his last question. Foreman, apprentice, what is the purpose of a diagnostic log? John, to track every step, avoid repetition, provide a map for others, and prove systematic troubleshooting. Foreman, correct. But with logs, they call you professional. We stood, exhausted, our notebooks full of numbers, diagrams, and notes. Harris looked at each of us. Harris, today you learned that wires lie but numbers tell the truth. Test, record, confirm. Electricity speaks, but only to those who listen with discipline. The foreman handed me back my log, stamped with approval. Foreman, you are ready for the next trial. Not just faults and training boards. Real faults, real buildings, real consequences. Next, you face motors and controls. My heart pounded. Motors, controls, moving power, a new battlefield. That night, I wrote in my notebook. Live dead. Live. On contact equals scout. Multimeter equals judge. Open circuit equals no path. Short equals wrong path. Ground fault equals leakage. Arc fault equals fire. Voltage drop equals silent killer. Log everything. I closed the book, hands still trembling from the trial. The circuits no longer looked like puzzles. They looked like enemies I had learned to defeat. And tomorrow, new enemies would come.